The boy is reincarnated in another world and lives a life of being surrounded by various beauties, including his maid, his teacher, and his friend. When the powerful hooligans intend to bully his teacher, he, as an 8-year-old boy, defeats all of the hooligans by just slightly raising his hand. Such a brave and powerful boy quickly wins the hearts of 2 beautiful teachers, and they promise to join his harem when the boy grows up. All of this is just the beginning of the boy's life in another world. Like and subscribe, and let's see the orphan boy, Cain, changing from nobody to somebody. The story starts with an accident. One day, Cain has just left work, and he encounters a robbery on his way home. The robbers try to hurt the 2 girls, and Cain immediately fights the robbers in order to protect the girls. However, Cain is killed in the fight. When Cain wakes up again, he has reincarnated as a noble boy. Seeing Cain wake up, his maid is very happy. Just then, Cain realizes that he has been reincarnated in another world. He lives in a luxurious room, and the maid carefully takes care of him, which can prove that he is definitely not an ordinary person. In this world, Cain was born into a noble family. His father is a count and has 2 wives. The first wife gave birth to 2 boys and the second gave birth to a girl as well as Cain. That is to say, Cain has 2 older brothers and 1 older sister. There is magic and all kinds of strange creatures in this world, which makes Cain very curious. Therefore, he is very studious. Since Cain's soul is a teenager, he is much better at learning than ordinary children. Soon, Cain is able to cast some simple spells. Cain's sister likes Cain so much that she often teaches him some knowledge herself. Cain then learns that this kingdom was founded 300 years ago by an adventurer who also seemed to be an earthling. With the help of his sister, Cain quickly masters the basics of the world. One day, Cain needs to go to church for baptism, which is the custom of this world. After being baptized, people are able to cast magic and use other skills. The people of this kingdom believe in 7 gods, who will bless the baptized believers and give them certain talents. Generally, a person will only be blessed by 1 or 2 gods, but when Cain is baptized, he sees all 7 gods. The gods tell Cain that his death was an accident, so the gods on earth ask them to take care of him. Therefore, all 7 gods bless Cain, who then acquires talents in magic, combat, business, life skills, and so on. When Cain returns to the church from the world of gods, he immediately checks his state, only to be surprised to find that all of his attributes are twice the maximum. If it is discovered by someone, Cain may be in trouble, so he decides to hide his true attributes. But even so, Cain's family is frightened when they check Cain's attributes because Cain forgets to hide his mana, and his mana turns out to be dozens of times that of the strongest magician. Cain's father decides to hide Cain's attributes because he has the potential to cause panic in other countries. After Cain is baptized, he is able to cast high-level summoning magic. He wants a magic pet, so he casts a summoning spell based on the contents of a summoning magic book. However, Cain unexpectedly summons a monster, which tries to attack Cain's sister and another little girl. To protect them, Cain fights the monster. This scene is similar to the scene before Cain's death, but luckily, this time Cain manages to defeat the monster and protect the 2 girls. Both girls are very touched and they are grateful to Cain for protecting them. Cain is also very happy. He knows that in this world, he has great power to protect others. Since then, Cain has had a dream to travel to every corner of the world and help as many people as possible. To make Cain better learn magic and swordsmanship, Cain's parents find 2 adventurers to be Cain's teachers. Cain is curious about the 2 teachers, so when he hears the teachers arrive, he runs out excitedly. Just then, Cain discovers that his teachers are 2 beautiful girls. Since Cain is from a noble family, the 2 teachers have great respect for him. One of them is a magician and the other is a swordswoman. Later when they are teaching, the 2 teachers are surprised to find that Cain is much stronger than a child, even stronger than the average adventurer. He can easily defeat his swordsmanship teacher in battle, and his magic is much more powerful than that of his magic teacher. He also has a magic box, which is only as big as a palm, but inside it is a magical space as large as a castle. The 2 teachers realize that Cain is much stronger than them, and they don't have any skills to teach Cain. At this time, Cain suggests that they take him out on an adventure. Usually, Cain can only stay at home and can only go out when practicing magic. So the 2 teachers ask for Cain's father's permission to take Cain out. After Cain's father learns that Cain may ruin the house if he practices magic at home, he agrees. After Cain comes to the wild, he can finally cast magic with his full strength. He directly destroys a large stone with a medium-level fire magic, which is even more powerful than high-level magic. Both teachers are surprised, and they are finally convinced that Cain is a super genius. At this time, they suddenly hear the sound of a monster coming from the grass nearby. Cain immediately attacks the monster and kills it. After that, he puts the materials dropped by the monster into his magic box. The teachers are very envious of Cain for having such a magic box. They then hunt monsters in the wild with Cain. During the battle, some monsters flee to the nearby forest. Cain tries to pursue but is stopped by the teachers because there are many powerful monsters in the forest. Hearing this, Cain decides to try hard to become stronger so that he can take adventures in the forest afterward. After a day of training, Cain is raised to level 8. The speed of Cain's leveling up is unexpectedly 100 times faster than the others, and it turns out that one of the gods gave him 100 times more experience points than normal. The next day, the teachers take Cain to the Adventurers Guild, where they can find a lot of information about monsters. Both teachers are D-rank adventurers, and Cain is still young, so he cannot register as an adventurer for the time being and has no rank. At this time, several C-rank adventurers harass the two teachers. Although they are adventurers, they are very disgusting. Cain is angry and he immediately stops these shameless adventurers. Despite his young age, Cain is very powerful. The leader of the C-rank adventurers underestimates Cain's strength, and in the end, he is easily defeated by Cain, but he is unwilling to admit defeat and then tries to attack Cain with a weapon. Angry, Cain teaches them a hard lesson and drives them away from the Adventurers Guild. The teachers express their attitude towards Cain, and later, they find more monsters according to the guild's intelligence with Cain and gain a lot of experience points from the monsters. As time passes by, Cain takes adventurers with the two teachers for 3 years, during which the teachers have also become more powerful than before. Later, the two teachers decide to venture somewhere else and say goodbye to Cain. Knowing this, Cain decides to prepare a gift for them before they leave. He knows they have always wanted a magic box, so he tries to make 2 magic boxes for them. He goes into the dangerous woods in search of materials to craft magic boxes and defeats a lot of powerful monsters. During then, his battle with the monsters causes a violent explosion, which causes the soldiers in the castle to think that the monster is about to invade the castle. So Cain's father leads the army to the forest to hunt down monsters. When they arrive, they see only a large hole. Seeing the item left by Cain in the hole, Cain's father finally understands what happened. After that, Cain takes out 2 magic bags he made as parting gifts, which contain a magic space as large as a castle. Magic bags with space as large as a carriage are already very rare, so the magic bags given by Cain are as valuable as national treasures. The teachers are very grateful to Cain, and they don't know how to repay him. Finally, they give him 2 kisses. Later, Cain says goodbye to his enlightenment teacher and starts a new stage of his life. Now after being baptized, Cain gained powerful talents, defeating the strong dragon alone at the age of 10. Also, he was given 100 times more experience points than normal, so now he is at a very high level. All the children of nobles need to go to the royal capital for their debut into society when they are 10 years old. On this day, Cain and his family decide to leave for the capital. On their way, they might encounter danger because there are many monsters nearby. Therefore, they are protected by many knights. But in fact, Cain does not need anyone's protection at all, and he has the ability to defeat any monsters. Halfway through, Cain detects a nearby battle where several humans are besieged by a group of monsters, so he decides to offer help immediately. He thinks that riding the carriage is too slow, so he directly uses the wind magic to fly to the battlefield. Meanwhile, in the battlefield, the monsters have defeated most of the soldiers. The surviving soldiers are guarding a luxurious carriage, but they will soon be defeated as well. Fortunately, Cain arrives in time, and with his powerful magic, he defeats half of the monsters in an instant. The other half of the monsters are fighting the soldiers, and Cain may hurt the soldiers if he attacks with magic, so he kills the other monsters with his sword. He then heals all the wounded soldiers with the healing magic. By the time Cain's father and knights arrive, the battle is long over. Suddenly, the door of the luxurious carriage opens. The royal princess, Telestia, and the noble girl, Silk, walk out, and they express their gratitude to Cain. Cain can tell that they are still frightened, so he uses calming magic to calm them. After that, Telestia and Silk fall in love with Cain at the first sight. When they hear that Cain also leaves for the capital, they separately hold Cain's 2 arms and take him into the carriage. In the carriage, they are unwilling to let go of Cain for 1 second and lean on his shoulders all the time. It takes several days to reach the capital, and they need to rest for a night in another city along the way. After arriving in the city, Telestia and Silk still don't want to leave Cain, even asking him to sleep with them. Cain feels it difficult to reject them, and finally, he has no other choice but to stay in one room with them. There are 3 beds in this room, and Telestia and Silk put 3 beds together in order to sleep in the same bed as Cain. At night, Cain is too nervous to fall asleep at all. The next day, he feels very tired, but soon they arrive in the capital. The head of the knights in the capital sees Telestia and Silk holding Cain's hand and feels very strange at first, but when he learns that Cain saved the 2 girls, he understands them and respects Cain very much. After that, Cain buries the dead soldiers with the knights. Later, the head of the knights asks Cain to go directly to meet the king in the palace. It turns out that the king is very curious about Cain when he heard that Cain defeated the terrifying monsters alone and saved Telestia and Silk. When the king sees Cain, he is very happy, so he decides to promote Cain to Baron and give him a mansion. Among the other nobles present, there is one who thinks that Cain is too young to receive such a reward, but the king directly asks him to fight the monsters alone just like Cain, and tells him to shut up if he can't do this. After hearing this, the noble can only recognize the king's decision. Cain successfully gets promoted to Baron. After that, the king wants to meet Cain again in private. Later, Cain and his father come to the king's reception area, and the king and Silk's father also arrive with their daughters. This time, the king, as a father, thanks Cain again. Immediately afterwards, he and Silk's father make a very surprising request. That is, they hope that Cain make a marriage contract with Telestia and Silk. It turns out that they learn that Telestia and Silk are close to Cain during their journey, so they want Cain to be responsible for this and marry 2 girls in the future. Cain also loves these 2 beautiful girls, so although he feels very shy, he still agrees to it. After that, the gods summon Cain again. They tell him that he is now the strongest human, and that if he becomes stronger, he will become a demigod. Hearing this, Cain is very surprised. This time, the gods summon Cain because they want to ask him to introduce Japanese entertainments to the world, because in this world, people rarely know what entertainment is. Later, Cain returns to the real world. When he accompanies his sister to the clothing store, he happens to meet a cat girl. The girl is his friend since childhood, and her uncle happens to be the president of a chamber of commerce. So Cain offers to visit the chamber of commerce, intending to test its strength. After investigation, Cain thinks the chamber is not bad, so he tells the president that he wants to make a board game. There are no board games in this world, but after Cain explains the rules to the president thinks that this board game will definitely be popular. What Cain asked the president to make is a reverse board game, which is an interesting board game with simple rules. By spending so much time on this matter, Cain forgets that his sister is still waiting for him in the clothing store. Cain's sister is very angry, but when hearing Cain praising her new clothes for looking good, she becomes happy again. The next day, the model of the Reversi is done. Cain thinks the model is great and they should start mass production right away. He suggests that the president make 2 versions. One is a cheap version that the commoners can also afford, and the other is an expensive version for nobles. Cain wants to produce thousands of the Reversi, but the Chamber of Commerce doesn't have enough money, so he provides the money to produce it. There is a special custom in this world that when new goods appear, they must first offer it to the god of commerce. So Cain and the president start a ritual and sacrifice the model of the Reversi to the god of commerce. Cain knows the gods will love the game. After Cain returns home from the Chamber of Commerce, the maid immediately reminds him to go to a ball. Later, Cain's parents take him to the ball, which all the nobles in the kingdom will attend, including Telestia and Silk. Cain greets Silk and her father very gentlemanly. Since Cain's soul is a young man, not a child, he behaves maturely. This makes Silk's father feel a little strange, because Cain is so good at socializing. He looks a bit like a playboy. Cain and his parents are embarrassed by this. Soon after, Cain and his parents go to meet the king, who gives the same assessment that Cain is a bit of a playboy. After listening to it, Cain quickly changes the subject, taking out the Reversi as a gift. The king is very happy about this. After this, the adults go to socialize, so Cain's parents ask Cain to play with the other children. While Cain is chatting with Silk, a marquis son with 2 ass-kissers provokes Cain. They don't know Cain's identity and think he has a low status. In fact, Cain's father is a count, a higher status than their fathers. Then the son of the Marquis offers to duel Cain, which Cain doesn't refuse. They come to the grass outside. The Marquis' son and 2 ass-kissers try hard to gather all their mana, but in the end, they only cast very weak magic. Their fire magic is like a candle flame, and they only summon a small stone with the earth magic. Cain can easily defeat them with just a finger. But Cain doesn't really want to fight these kids, so Silk reveals Cain's identity. The story of Cain defeating dozens of monsters alone has long spread throughout the country. When the Marquis' son and 2 ass-kissers learn Cain's identity, they are shocked and immediately kneel down to beg for mercy, hoping that Cain can forgive their rudeness. Cain, of course, won't blame the kids, so he forgives them. Silk can tell that the reason why Cain didn't reveal his identity before is that he wants to tease these kids, so she jokingly says that Cain must date her, otherwise, she will tell others. At this time, Telestia notices that Cain and Silk are chatting, so she joins them. They agree to go on a date together next time. Coincidentally, when passing by, the king hears their conversation, and is now more convinced that Cain is a playboy. As I mentioned before, Cain saved Telestia and Silk, so the king granted him a title and a mansion as a reward. On this day, Cain is given the key to the mansion and is ready to take over it. When Cain comes to the mansion according to the map, he finds that the mansion is completely abandoned because it is too old. Although the mansion is huge, it is almost dirty everywhere. Luckily, Cain can easily change all that with magic. He casts magic to repair the broken parts of the mansion and clear all the dirt. Now the mansion looks like a brand new one. Cain also hires a butler and a group of lovely maids who heard of Cain's reputation and admire him very much. They were supposed to clean the mansion today, but Cain has already done it with magic. After this, Cain's family also comes to visit Cain's mansion. They are surprised to find that Cain's mansion has become clean and tidy in a very short time. However, Cain's father thinks that the mansion, although very neat, lacks decorations. So Cain takes out a stuffed huge dragon as a decoration, which frightens the maids. Cain's father feels very surprised because huge dragons are very powerful monsters that usually can only be killed by the army of a country. In addition to the decorations, there are some unique designs in Cain's mansion. Cain applies water magic to his toilet, giving it a cleaning function. This is the first time Cain's family has experienced this function, and they all think it is great. After that, Cain's father reminds Cain that he has to invite other nobles to the mansion. In accordance with etiquette, Cain's butler quickly prepares the guest list and the list of supplies. After reading it, Cain discovers that the king's name isn't on the guest list. It turns out that Cain is only a baron, and if he wants to invite the king, he has to become a duke at least. In addition, Cain needs to prepare gifts for each guest. He discovers that there is no glassware in this world, so he casts magic to make beautiful glassware as gifts. Besides, Cain teaches the chef to make a steak, a common dish in Japan. He also makes sparkling wine by making the wine carbonated. After that, the king summons Cain, asking him why he didn't invite him. Cain can only explain and apologize, and then formally invites the king. Soon after, Cain hosts a banquet to entertain guests. When the guests enter the mansion, they are immediately shocked by the stuffed dragon, which they think is probably the most perfect stuffed dragon in the world. After the banquet begins, the guests are also surprised by the sparkling wine. They have never tasted this wine, nor have they ever seen such good-looking glassware. When Cain announces that the glassware will be given as a gift to all guests, they are pleasantly surprised. When the king arrives at the banquet, he is also surprised by the sparkling wine and the glassware that he has never seen before. After tasting the steak, he likes it very much, and praises Cain's banquet in public. After the guests go to the toilet, they are amazed by the washing function of the toilet. After the king uses the toilet, he immediately asks Cain to add a cleaning function to all the toilets in the palace. All the guests enjoy the banquet, and they are all cheering for Cain. Just then, a marquis hostile to Cain also comes to the banquet. His manners are appalling, and the other guests hate him. The marquis tastes sparkling wine and steak, which he thinks are very delicious, but he deliberately says that they taste bad. Cain does not want to clash with the marquis, so he endures the marquis' rudeness. However, Cain knows that one of the guests can punish the marquis. By the time he connives at the marquis's impudence, the king has already come near. The marquis does not expect that the king will attend a baron's banquet, so he keeps behaving rudely. When he sees the king, he immediately kneels down to apologize for his rudeness, and flees the mansion. The clever boy Cain takes advantage of the king's dignity and makes the marquis pay for his impudence. After the banquet, Cain is invited to attend the knight's training session by the royal knights. He gives the knights many monsters' dead bodies, which are very precious forging materials, as gifts. Seeing the dead bodies of the monsters, the vice captain feels very surprised, because these monsters are so powerful that only the army can defeat them. The vice captain thinks Cain is very powerful, so he proposes that Cain stay and guide the training of the royal knights. He also says that the captain of the royal knights likes the strong the most, hoping that Cain can meet the captain. After that, Cain starts to train the royal knights. Someone in the knights thinks Cain is just a child and worries that he will hurt Cain accidentally. Knowing this, the vice captain asks this person to train with Cain one-on-one. However, Cain defeats him in an instant. Everyone witnesses Cain's real strength, and they no longer doubt him. Later, the knights begin their training under Cain's guidance. At this time, a beautiful elven girl suddenly stops them. The beautiful girl also thinks that Cain is a child and worries that he will get hurt. So the vice captain tells her that Cain is the new baron who has defeated the monster alone and saved the princess. Hearing this, the elven girl instantly becomes very excited and offers to fight Cain. The vice captain tells Cain that the beautiful girl is the captain of the royal knights, Tefana. Tefana is very powerful and is called Master Swordsperson. With only a wooden sword, Cain fights Tefana. In the beginning, Cain and Tefana fight to a draw, but later in the fight, Cain shows his real strength and eventually wins. Tefana is shocked by Kane's strength. After the duel, she unexpectedly proposes to Kane, making Kane very shy. Kane doesn't agree immediately, telling Tefana that he must gain his father's and the king's permission first. So Tefana heads to meet Kane's father and the king. Both the king and Kane's father are surprised to hear that Tefana wants to marry Kane. They ask Kane why Tefana wants to marry him. Kane immediately explains that it is because he defeated Tefana. The king tells Kane that the first king of the kingdom was friendly to the elves, so the elves join the kingdom. Tefana comes from the elven kingdom, named the Leeward Territory, and she is not only the captain of the royal knights, but also the princess of the Leeward Territory. Later, the king reminds Tefana that Kane has already been engaged to Telestia and Silk. When Tefana learns of this, she not only does not mind but also has a stronger desire to marry Kane because she thinks that Kane has been approved by the king and nobles. Next, as long as Tefana can get her father's approval, she can get engaged to Kane. Tefana falls in love with Kane because Kane defeated her, but a question soon appears in the king's mind. Tefana is the strongest knight in the kingdom, while Kane is just a little boy. How could he defeat Tefana? The king begins to suspect that Kane may be the legendary hero. So he orders the minister to bring an ancient royal magic book that can test Kane's true identity. A few days later, the vice captain again invites Kane to meet the king, who then hands the book to Kane and asks him to read it. This magic book is a treasure left by the first king, and it records very powerful magic, so Kane is very excited. Kane's expression reveals his true identity. It turns out that the book is written in Japanese, and no one except the first king could understand it. Now Kane can understand it, which proves that he, like the first king, is a hero in the legend. Kane then realizes that the first king, like him, came from Earth. After Kane's secret is discovered by the king, he has to tell the truth about himself. He tells others that his soul comes from another world and that he saw gods before. After that, he shows them his status. Everyone is shocked by Kane's exaggerated status, which is so powerful that makes him not like a human but a god. Kane knows that once his identity is revealed, he will be worshipped as a god, but that's not what Kane wants. Instead, he only wants to live an ordinary and happy life like now. So several people who learn the secret promise that they will keep it a secret. Immediately after, Tefana arrives in the room and tells Kane that her father has approved her marriage to Kane. In this way, Kane has another fiancée, and he will embark on a new adventure with his harem. After obtaining the magic book left by the first king of the kingdom, Kane learns that the first king was a transmigrationer just like him. However, the first king traveled to this world with his body, and Kane was reborn in this world. The first king was originally an adventurer, and he later founded the country. So Kane also wants to be an adventurer. He comes to the Adventurers Guild and registers as an adventurer. Each adventurer starts with a G rank, and they need to level up by doing quests. Kane's former teacher is a D rank adventurer, and the first king was an SSS rank adventurer. There are good and bad people among adventurers. Several bad adventurers meet young Kane and try to bully him. However, Kane easily dodges their attacks. At this time, a red-haired adventurer helps Kane drive the hooligans away. Kane expresses his gratitude to him. The red-haired adventurer's nickname is Flame, and his wife is the adventurer nicknamed Ice. They are all A-rank adventurers. Kane becomes friends with them, and then they say goodbye to Kane and go on a mission. Kane decides to take a mission as well, and he wants to find a mission to hunt down monsters. Due to Kane's low level, he can only choose to fight low-level monsters such as goblins. As soon as Kane leaves the Adventurers Guild, Tefana comes to see him. When Tefana learns that Kane is going to fight against the goblins, she insists on this mission with him. Facing Tefana's adamant attitude, Kane can only agree to let her help. Later, he senses the location of the goblins in the forest through his powerful mana. After entering the forest, they find that the goblins are attacking a merchant. Kane heals the wounded merchant, and Tefana fights the goblins. As the strongest knight in the kingdom, she easily defeats these goblins. During the battle, Tefana fantasizes about her and Kane's happy life after marriage. It seems that this is just an easy fight for her. After Tefana defeats the goblins, a group of lizard monsters appears, which are more powerful than the goblins. Kane asks Tefana to flee first with the merchant, and he wants to defeat these lizard monsters with powerful magic. After Tefana and the merchant flee to safety, Kane defeats all the lizard monsters in an instant with a single spell. After that, Kane returns to the Adventurers Guild and reports his achievements to the guild's guide, who is surprised to hear that Kane defeats a group of lizard monsters alone. She immediately reports the incident to the manager of the Adventurers Guild. the manager doesn't believe that Kane, a G-rank adventurer, is capable of defeating a group of lizard monsters, because a single lizard monster has the same strength as a D-rank adventurer, and only a whole team of C-rank adventurers can fight a group of lizard monsters. So he directly decides that Kane was cheating and disqualifies Kane from being an adventurer. Fortunately, the leader of the Adventurers Guild arrives in time, and he instantly recognizes Kane's identity and demands an apology from the manager. It turns out that the leader is Tefana's older brother, and he has long heard that his sister's fiancé is Kane and how powerful Kane is. The manager and the guide are very surprised when they hear about Kane's identity, especially the manager. Since Kane is a baron and the manager is just a commoner, the manager's defamation of Kane for cheating is a very serious crime. The manager immediately kneels down to apologize to Kane, hoping that Kane will forgive him. Kane does not blame the manager, but asks him not to be wrong about others in the future, and to investigate before making a judgment. After learning that Kane has defeated a group of lizard monsters, the guild leader decides to raise Kane's level to C rank. But Tefana thinks that the C rank is still too low for Kane, who was able to defeat the dragon alone at the age of 10, and has also defeated her. This can prove that Kane is more powerful than A rank adventurers. The guild leader agrees with Tefana, but even if Kane is strong enough, he can't break the rules. So the guild leader asks Kane to perform a B-rank adventurer's mission for leveling up, which is to defeat the bandit group. As long as Kane completes this task, he will be promoted to an A-rank adventurer. Meanwhile, the gods in the divine realm are watching Kane's actions. They are relieved to see Kane become strong, but they don't think Kane is strong enough, because the sealed demon lord is about to awaken, and Kane needs to get stronger so that he can have a chance to defeat the demon lord. Therefore, they decide to find a new teacher for Kane. One morning a few days later, Kane is woken up by his maid. Today is the day of the entrance exam to the Royal Academy, but when Kane wakes up, he is already late. Fortunately, Kane has the ability to teleport, and he teleports himself directly to the examination site. Kane then receives the admission ticket and enters the examination room. Telestia and Silk are also taking the exam today, and strangely, Kane doesn't see them in the examination room. The first exam is a written exam, which Kane completes quickly. The examiner then tests the candidate's level of magic. She says that the examination site is protected by magic, so the candidates can use their full strength without worrying about destroying the examination site. Kane knows that if he really uses his full strength, the examination site will definitely be destroyed, so he casts only one of the simplest magics. But even so, he still destroys the examination site. After the magic exam, the final exam comes, in which the candidates will be tested on their combat ability. The examiners are all adventurers, and they will test the candidates' level through battles. The red-haired adventurer Kane saw before is one of the examiners, so the red-haired adventurer offers to be Kane's examiner. Under normal circumstances, the examiner does not need to be so serious, and they only need to show part of their strength. But the red-haired adventurer can tell that Kane is very powerful, so he fights Kane with all his might. After the fierce battle, Kane is quickly recognized as getting full marks. Now he can go home and wait for the result of the exam. Soon the king learns of Kane's test result. The academy issues a ticket, and Kane needs to pay a fine for destroying the examination site. The king discovers that Kane has actually gone to the wrong examination site. This exam is held in two sites, one for the commoners and the other for the nobles. Kane was supposed to go to the latter, but he went to the wrong one. That's why he didn't meet Telestia and Silk in the examination site. But no matter which examination site Kane is in, he will definitely get full marks. Instead of directly announcing Kane's result, the king asks him to look it up on the notification board like other candidates. Near the notification board, Kane meets Silk, who ranks second, and Telestia wins third place. Undoubtedly, Kane ranks first. Kane's family and friends are very happy. Kane, who wins first place, needs to deliver a speech as the student representative. After he takes the stage, he tells the fact that he went to the wrong examination site but is still admitted to the Royal Academy. He uses this incident as an example to illustrate that although nobles and commoners enter different examination sites, it doesn't mean that they are different, and they are all equal in the Royal Academy. Later, the king arrives and makes a speech. The whole site is filled with applause, and the freshman's speech ends perfectly. The Royal Academy offers a lot of courses, and in the first class, students need to choose their own courses. Kane chooses 4 subjects, namely nobility, adventuring, magic, and magic items. It will be tough for ordinary people to learn 2 subjects, such as Telestia, who chooses nobility and internal affairs, and she chooses the latter because she wants to help Kane manage the domain in the future. Silk chooses the nobility and commerce, hoping to help Kane make money in the future. After the first class, Cain discovers that several noble students are bullying a common student. The commoner is Cain's childhood friend, a demi-human girl. Cain is angry and stops the noble students, who were taught a lesson by Cain before, but this time they don't need to deal with Cain, and they can deal with the demi-human girl with the influence of their families. Cain, as a baron, has no right to take control of their family. Just then, Telestia and Silk come to stop them. Telestia, as the princess of the kingdom, represents the authority of the king. The noble students are instantly frightened, and they immediately kneel down to apologize and ask for the forgiveness of the demi-human girl. After that, the demi-human girl expresses her gratitude to Cain. Telestia and Silk think that the demi-human girl seems to like Cain too, so they talk about him together. In the next second, Cain suddenly hears a man's voice, which can only be heard by Cain. The man asks him to meet him in the library. Cain is curious, so he teleports himself directly to the library. At the library, Cain unexpectedly meets a man who is making coffee. It is he who asks Cain out, and he even knows the name of Cain's previous life. It turns out that this mysterious man is Cain's new master, Yuya, who turns out to be the first king of the kingdom. Yuya, like Cain, comes from Earth. He is over 300 years old, but still looks like a young man. This is because Yuya has become a god, so he does not grow old. Yuya needs to train Cain to be stronger, but Cain thinks he's strong enough. To test him, Yuya asks Cain to snatch the cookies from his hand, while Cain fails instantly. That's when Yuya reveals to Cain that he sealed a demon king, Eren, 300 years ago. But the seal has weakened recently, and Eren, who has the power to create wars and destroy the world, may be awakening. Yuya and the gods cannot interfere with issues happening in the mortal world directly, so they place hope on Cain to defeat Eren. But now Cain is apparently not strong enough, and he needs to be trained. Yuya then takes Cain to a magical island he created. Here a year is like a day in the normal world. Cain needs to defeat the various powerful monsters on the island to reach the house located at the highest part of the island. Cain has never faced an opponent who could pose a threat to him, but encountering the powerful and numerous monsters on this island, Cain feels the pressure for the first time. Meanwhile, Cain's family and comrades have found him missing, yet they're not worried because Cain is strong in their eyes. But in fact, Cain is now facing a crisis. His physical strength and magic power have been exhausted, while there are still many monsters nearby. Just then, Cain spots a wounded white wolf. As he heals the white wolf with his only remaining magical power, he blacks out. Luckily, when Cain is unconscious, the white wolf defeats nearby monsters and protects him. Replenished, Cain finally wakes up. He quickly becomes partners with the white wolf. They fight and adventure on the island together. 4 years later, Cain manages to reach the highest house. Both he and the white wolf have grown up a lot. Now he can summon or hide the white wolf at any time through magic. But Cain's training doesn't end here. Yuya finds Cain a powerful warrior, Dara, as his opponent. Only if he defeats Dara does his training reach the final success. However, Cain loses to Dara the first time he tries to fight. Dara then takes Cain home to take care of him, and they will live together until Cain wins. Before Cain starts the training with Dara, Yuya tells Cain a secret. Cain is an orphan, but he was not abandoned by his parents. It turns out that Cain's parents, along with Yuya, were summoned to another world. They fought and adventured together, becoming stronger with Yuya. However, they died in the final showdown with Eren. In other words, Eren is Cain's enemy. When Cain learns about this, his will becomes firmer. In the following year, Dara and Cain fight almost every day. Although Cain loses every battle, he isn't discouraged, because he has to be stronger. After continuous training, Cain manages to beat Dara. After that, Cain comes to his parents' grave to mourn them. Yuya tells Cain that they had been thinking about him until they died, and they kept looking for a way to return to Earth. Hearing this, Cain is so moved that he couldn't help crying. Suddenly, Yuya takes out a cookie, and this time Cain grabs the cookie instantly, which means Cain already has the strength to fight Eren. Yuya recognizes Cain's strength and agrees to transport him back to the original world, to prevent Cain's family from being surprised. Yuya also changes Cain's body to what it was 5 years ago. Before he leaves, Dara gives him a dragon as a pet, and Yuya also gives him a sword. When Cain returns to his own world, he has been considered to be missing for 5 days. His family and comrades are all very worried about him. During the days he was missing, Telestia and Silk learn to bake cookies while waiting for him. When they bring out the hand-baked cookies, Cain is very touched, immediately eating them up. For Cain, he hasn't seen them for 5 years, and he misses the life so much. When he returns to the kingdom, he immediately tells the king about his experience. The king doesn't believe in such unusual stories at first, until Cain takes out Yuya's sword. He finally believes that Yuya is not only alive, but also becomes a god. Previously, the leader of the Adventurers Guild gave Cain a task to fight the bandit group, and Cain can be promoted to an A-rank adventurer after he finishes it. But before he could perform the task, he went to practice with Yuya. Luckily, in this world, only 5 days passed, and Cain is still in time to perform his task. So he sets off immediately. After he comes to the place where the bandit group frequents, he casts flying magic to fly through the air and observe the situation, successfully finding the traces of the bandit group. They are robbing an escorting team, and the team's guards happen to be Cain's former teachers. The red-haired one is Millie and the green-haired one is Nina. They have already fought against the bandit group and are wounded as a result. Cain immediately treats their injuries. After that, he easily defeats the bandit group. For Cain, the most difficult part of this battle is how to control his power so as not to kill them directly. Millie and Nina haven't seen Cain for a long time, and they tell him about their experiences over the years. When they know that Cain has become an A-rank adventurer and a baron, they are very surprised. When Cain returns to the city, he discovers that the escorting team he is protecting belongs to his friend's family. Soon after, he goes to the Adventurers Guild with Millie and Nina. After completing this task, Cain successfully gets promoted to a rank. At this point, an obscene adventurer tries to harass Millie and Nina, and Cain immediately drives him and his companions away. At this time, the adventurer couple, who has made friends with Cain before, also arrives at the Adventurers Guild. They are relatives of Millie and friends of Nina, and later they go to the restaurant with Cain for dinner. During the meal, Millie and Nina mention the magic box that Cain once gave them. These 2 boxes have a lot of space and can even fit a house. When the couple learns about this, they are very surprised, because a box with such a large space is just like a national treasure. They want Cain to make them a magic box, and Cain agrees to their request without hesitation. Last week, Cain took 5 days off for his practice, and he has to go back to school this week. When learning of this, other people are surprised because the strongest teacher in the school is no match for Cain in strength, and Cain cannot become stronger in school anymore. But he doesn't think he knows enough about the world, and he believes he can still learn a lot of common sense in school. Coincidentally, the school wants to hire adventurers to give lectures to the students during this time, so they decide to go to the school together and see Cain's campus life while teaching. Later, they find out that Cain has no friends at school because he is much more mature than normal children and no one wants to be friends with him. Afterward, they try to get Cain to gain more friends by letting him show his strength. In the subsequent adventurer lesson, they have students show their adventurer cards, which represent the adventurer's level, but Cain doesn't want to show his card in front of his classmates. As an A-rank adventurer, he possesses a gold card, which will definitely cause other people to be frightened or jealous. So Cain lies that he forgets to bring the adventurer card. In the subsequent combat training course, the adventurers want Cain to show his strength, so they arrange for Cain to be the last to do actual combat training. But there are too many students, and after everyone completes the actual combat training, the class is over. In the end, only Cain does not have time to engage in actual combat. He originally wants to test his practice results in battle, so he feels sad. At night, Cain travels to a forest full of monsters, where he tries to confirm his strength by fighting against the monsters. But these monsters are too weak for Cain to show his real strength. However, the noise caused by his battle against the monsters makes the nearby army mistakenly think that the demon lord has awakened, and Cain's father leads the army in an emergency dispatch. After they reach the forest, Cain's father finds Cain's scarf, and he instantly knows that it was Cain who caused the noise. After that, the king warns Cain that such a noise will make the army alert. Cain immediately apologizes for this. Meanwhile, Aaron's seal has weakened more, and he is about to return to this world. Cain is so powerful that he may destroy the entire magic academy with his weakest magic, so the teacher forbids him from attending most of the magic courses. But today they are going to have a summoning class, and generally, the summoning magic won't cause damage, so the teacher allows Cain to participate in today's course. The summoning teacher hands over the magic array that can summon monsters to the students. As long as they inject mana into the magic array, they can summon all kinds of monsters. Most of the students summon cute and petite low-level monsters. Though a powerful student summons a high-level monster, he is too weak to conquer it, so he cannot become the master of the high-level monster, which quickly disappears. When it is Cain's turn, he directly summons an ancient and honorable demon, Seth. Seth doesn't believe humans can summon him and is furious, but when he sees Cain's attributes clearly, he immediately kneels down to Cain and offers to become Cain's servant. Cain successfully signs a contract with Seth, which frightens both the teacher and his classmates. Immediately afterwards, the king summons Cain. When he learns that Cain summoned a demon, he is also very scared, because once the demon gets angry, the entire kingdom may be destroyed. The king believes that Cain has become stronger after practice, and he wants to see Cain's current attributes. When everyone sees it, they are all shocked. Previously, though powerful, Cain was just a human, but now, he is already a demigod. The king and the ministers want to kneel to Cain as a sign of respect, but Cain stops them. He wants them to keep this a secret and see him the way they used to. The king agrees and makes him a viscount. After that, Cain returns to his territory. At this time, he learns the news that in the border forest, many monsters become powerful and crazy, seemingly intending to invade the kingdom. Generally, the kingdom will first send the adventurers to scout the forest, and then send the army according to the situation. But this time, it is too dangerous, and Cain decides to scout the forest himself. When Cain arrives at the Adventurers Guild to report, the guide of the guild tries to persuade Cain to find some teammates to accompany him. But Cain decides that the task is too dangerous and rejects the guide's suggestion. In fact, Cain is not alone in this task, and he has several companions, such as the white wolf he picked up while practicing and the dragon that Durag gave him. To better perform this task, Cain summons Seth. Seth is able to sense a powerful creature in the forest, and because of this creature, a large number of crazy monsters have recently appeared in his territory. To help Cain, Seth summons his subordinate, a vampire. This vampire is very good at scouting, and he is able to control a large number of bats. These bats soon cover most of the forest. Meanwhile, Cain enters the forest, where he kills all the most powerful monsters to prevent them from posing a threat to the kingdom. When Seth and the vampire see Cain's strength, they become even more in awe of Cain. After that, Cain brings back to the kingdom the dead bodies of these monsters, which are valuable materials. At the same time, Seth and the vampire feel the aura of Aaron, and Aaron, after discovering them, completely awakens. Later, Aaron sends more monsters to attack, and Seth immediately comes to Cain's side with teleportation magic, informing him that numerous monsters are about to invade the kingdom. When Cain learns of this, he decides to leave the responsibility of resisting the monsters to the adventurers and the army. He will travel to the deepest part of the forest to face Aaron directly. Tefana, as the head of the knights, comes to the border as soon as possible. She embraces Cain warmly and offers to fight with him. Cain asks Tefana to stay at the border and command the army here, while he will head to the forest with Seth. Since teleportation magic is rare, Cain decides to run to the forest. After he arrives, he instantly feels the terrifying mana of Aaron. He knows that Aaron has completely lifted the seal now. Seth and the vampire have defeated many monsters in the forest, but still, many more monsters have been summoned by Aaron. Cain knows that if he wants to completely eliminate these monsters, he must kill Aaron, who constantly summons them. Seth tells Cain to go straight to the deepest part of the forest to face Aaron without worrying about other monsters. So Cain stops fighting the monsters in the forest, deciding to keep his mana against Aaron. Soon, a large number of monsters appear on the border of the kingdom. Tefana immediately orders the people in the city to evacuate to safety, while the adventurers of the Adventurers Guild walk against the crowd, intending to enter the forest and fight the monsters together. At this time, Seth summons many of his subordinates to deal with the monsters. These subordinates are powerful demons, and when they know Seth summoned them to help a human, they are all very surprised. Seth tells them that this human has evolved into a demigod. Only then do the demons know why the arrogant Seth is willing to help a human. They immediately obey Seth's orders and engage in a fierce battle with the monsters. Soon after, Cain comes to the deepest part of the forest, where Aaron is sealed in a cave. After sensing Cain's appearance, Aaron immediately attacks him. Cain blocks the attack and sees Aaron's face clearly. Since Aaron's original body cannot leave the seal, Aaron allows his soul to enter the body of a dragon. After he leaves the seal with the dragon's body, he summons more monsters. Seth and his subordinates can't kill so many monsters. Luckily, the adventurers have reached the forest, and they gather to defend against a large number of monsters. After Aaron summons the monsters, he begins to attack Cain. Before that, there were few enemies who could withstand Cain's attacks. But this time, Cain's attacks fail to even injure Aaron. This will be the greatest test Cain will face after his rebirth. In addition to Cain, other adventurers also face a huge crisis, and it is their first time confronting so many monsters. But they don't feel afraid, still fighting against them bravely. After some time, they are running out of their physical strength and mana, ready to sacrifice. Luckily, Tefana leads the army to join them. The adventurers and the army join forces and do not let any monsters into the kingdom. Meanwhile, Cain is doing his best to fight Aaron. His pets bravely attack Aaron, but they are injured by him. Cain immediately saves his pets. Aaron mocks Cain for wasting his mana to protect his companions. His words anger Cain. For Cain, his companions, and his family are the most important things in the world. To protect them, he is willing to sacrifice everything. Such determination allows Cain to burst into a power beyond his limits, and he unleashes more powerful magic than ever before. In the end, Cain succeeds in destroying Aaron, who has not even ashes left. Seth then comes to Cain and tells him that all the monsters have fled and that they have won the battle. Cain finally relaxes and returns to the forest to celebrate the victory with his companions. After that, the king summons Cain. In previous battles, because of Cain's super powerful magic, many people think that gods have come to Earth, and some areas fall into chaos and panic. At first, the king was annoyed by this. When he learned that Cain had unleashed such powerful magic in order to defeat the demon king Aaron, the king was no longer annoyed, but shocked and moved. So he rewards Cain with a special territory, which is easily accessible and resource-rich. Therefore, it has become a stronghold for many adventurers. The noble who previously acquired this territory was unable to manage the large number of adventurers, and eventually has to give up the territory. But for Cain, managing adventurers isn't a difficult task. After acquiring this territory, he shows all the adventurers his strength, and no adventurer dares to disobey Cain's management. In the process, Seth also visits Cain with his wife. Seth's wife is also a powerful demon, and she also adores Cain. With Seth's introduction, Seth's wife becomes Cain's new companion. Thanks to the efforts of Cain and his companions, the territory grows more and more prosperous. Cain builds a huge and luxurious castle in the territory for him and his harem members to live in. Since then, Cain has lived a happy and peaceful life with his family and companions. That brings the end of this anime. At the end of the story, Cain defeats the evil Aaron. It seems that Cain is more successful than Yuya. He does not seal Aaron, but directly kills him. Perhaps it is because Aaron angers Cain. Cain is a very gentle and kind boy. Before meeting Aaron, he has hardly ever been angry. Once people like Cain become furious, they will burst out of power beyond their limits. He gets angry because someone wants to hurt the one he loves, and love is always the strongest power. If you also like this anime, please like and subscribe. If you want to see more anime like this, comment below to tell me. See you in my next video.